Hey guys, what's up? Publik back here with another dungeon preview from the Battle for Azeroth beta. Today we're going to be looking at the dungeon, the Motherlode. This guy is going to be a normal dungeon clear. I've done this on Heroic a few times, but the mechanics did not change too much from my understanding, so I'm just going to go through this on normal. So this, guys, is a very interesting dungeon. We're going to go through it from the perspective of a Shadow Priest. Not going to talk about too many Shadow-specific things, but more or less go over the trash, the bosses, what to expect when you get in here in BFA. So guys, this is the Goblin Trash Hell Dungeon. Dear Lord, there's so much trash in this place. It is very ridiculous. You'll see the tank that I'm running with here is doing some crazy pulls here. For good reason. This dungeon takes a long time. It's a 4-boss instance. I've been in here for up to an hour before on normal. And I don't really think it's because of numbers reasons. There's just so much trash here, and it lives for so long. It's a little ridiculous. I think they definitely bit off more than they could chew here at this dungeon because there's a ton of different trash and it's a little bit chaotic. There's not like a clear defined path here. It's basically just, I don't know, there's just trash everywhere. So you'll kind of see me clear a bit of this as we go along, but I don't know, I feel like I'm fighting trash way too much in this dungeon. It's going to be a little gross. I will say the pathing is somewhat linear. However, the dungeon is so large, you can really determine which pathing you want to take in the dungeon, which mobs you want to pull. But regardless, guys, there's some crazy stuff in here. So basically, you're clearing all these thugs and goblins in this area, and there are some casters that you can interrupt. Otherwise, they do random casts on raid members or dungeon members, I guess. But eventually, after clearing through a decent amount of trash, it'll take you some time. You'll hit the first boss, which is the coin-operated crowd pummeler. So it's basically just a goblin in a suit, I think. So this boss is, I don't know, interesting. I'd say the bosses in here are relatively straightforward. He does a frontal cone and then an AoE knockback. That's about it. He'll throw bombs in the arena as well. People just need to dodge them. But it's not that bad. I mean, for the most part, this guy can pretty much be considered as patchwork. And then basically from there, it's just tank positioning and making sure you're not standing in front of the boss and then making sure you're not stepping on bombs, right? That's basically it here. It's really not that crazy. Kind of feels like a mini boss to me rather than a full-on boss. The trash actually feels harder than him, if I'm being honest, or at least takes longer, that's for sure. So here you're clearing more trash up a hill. Again, more bombs. These guys took a note out of Call of Duty's playbook or something like that. I don't know who did it first, but every time one of these goblin mobs dies in these packs, they spawn bombs underneath their feet. So you basically need to, it's kind of like a bursting affix, but it's avoidable if you move away from it. So kind of sucks for melee. The tank really needs to be on the ball here with positioning, but that's about it. So here, you can choose to basically hug the right side of the wall and skip some of the trash coming up here. Just be aware there's like an oil sludge lake beneath you, and it's kind of a pain to get back up from there. So you definitely need to be careful because some of these mobs do a knockback that can take you off the mountain if you're not careful. It can be interrupted though, so not a big deal there. Then you're killing these Stone Fury Elemental ads, and this kind of leads you into the second boss of the instance. And they really don't do that much damage. They can be AoE down pretty easily here. But eventually, assuming no one gets knocked off the cliff, you'll pull Azarok, which is the name of the second boss this instance, with 4 of these ads. I don't think you can pull the 4 ads separately. I think it's intended to pull them with the boss. But and they're kind of a pain to group up without grips or anything. The idea with this is the boss will cast, or the ads will fixate on raid members, and they need to be killed down in the process. And there will always be one Earth Rager, I think, that's kind of enraged, so to speak. And he does a lot of damage. And if he gets fixates on someone, definitely need to be focusing them down. So the idea here is just a big AoE ad cleave fest the entire time. The ads do an AoE. The boss does an AoE. It's a lot of damage going out here. So you really want to stack the ads as much as possible. But the main thing here is you need to be able to kill the ads. So having dot classes here is huge, especially if you don't have a tank with a lot of grips, or if the ads aren't grouped up, it's going to be kind of a painful of a time. But for the most part, when the boss reaches around 50-40% health, all the ads are pretty much dead, and then you're only dealing with the new ones that he's spawning. Then the fight gets infinitely easier. So I don't know if it's a bug that you can't pull the boss out the ads, or maybe my groups just have messed it up, but definitely something to keep in mind there. So after you go through that, you guessed it, even more trash we're going to deal with here. So you take a minecart through a minefield, which is kind of cool. But this next part of the dungeon is probably the thickest part of trash that you're going to find. There's a lot of roaming pats. There's a lot of caster mobs, which will randomly polymorph people. And you need a healer, be on point with the dispels here for those ads. And they do a lot of damage. So we wiped a few times doing this clear. And there's a lot of caster ads here and more bombs. So you're really trying to do your best here with avoiding trash. But with the polymorphs going out and there are orbs that get flung at people, positioning is kind of a pain in the butt here. And you almost are forced to overpull here. So I'll be curious to see how big the actual, trash counter will be here. But we just ended up pulling more than we could chew off several times, kind of on accident more than anything. So it's pretty annoying if I'm being honest. So I'll kind of skip through a lot of this trash. Again, same kind of thing, a lot of polymorphs you can interrupt the casts, and there are also purple orbs that fly out. Like I said, avoid those. Eventually, after clearing enough trash, you will hit the third boss of this instance, finally. So this is Rixa Flux Flame, and basically she targets random people in the raid and puts pools underneath them. Just got to dodge them, not too bad. And then she also does a frontal cone attack, and that was pretty much all that this boss did. Again, bosses are pretty easy in this place. I think it's just the trash is actually more annoying. And that's really it for that. After that, we're going to go to the final boss of the instance. Now, throughout this trash pull here, there are mines everywhere, so everything is kind of like a minefield. If you get too close to them, they'll start targeting that player and chase them. So I'm not quite... You can kill the mobs or the bombs technically, but they have a lot of health, so I don't think we were actually able to kill any, because they also fixate a player, run at them. Generally speaking, once you trigger it, you just need to blow yourself up with it. It won't kill you if you just do one, but definitely does some damage. And the whole point is trying to dodge mines and the ads, and eventually it's just you're going to end up pulling a lot of crap again. So again, I'll skip through a lot of this. There's a ton of trash here. It's just super, super annoying. All kind of goblin weird stuff. Then we get to the final boss of the instance. This guy's actually kind of cool. He has some interesting mechanics. He's in kind of a flying helicopter, and then once you kill the helicopter, he'll pop out and die in like 2 seconds. So here, the first kind of main mechanic in this phase 1 is that he has a missile he'll target at a player. That player just needs to run away so it won't hit everyone else in the raid. It moves pretty slowly, so this isn't too hard to do. Then he also does a Gatling gun attack, which is just kind of an AoE spread of shots that he spins around 360. This can be dodged, however, on normal at least, it was doing very little damage, so I'd say if it's a huge DPS loss for you to dodge it, not a big deal. If you're in melee, it's not that bad though. And then he goes into phase 2 eventually, which is he goes up in the air and he's either immune to attacks or like 99% reduced or whatever. And then he spawns 2 ads or 3 ads you need to kill. And while he's doing this, he'll also cast his drill move on people. Like, I don't remember what it's called exactly, but basically he'll target a player and then drill down at their position a few seconds later. The point with this mechanic is he has kind of bombs he's laid out throughout the encounter. You want to stand next to these bombs so he drills himself on top of the bomb and then damages his shield. You do that 3 times, at least on normal, and eventually he'll come down for you to finish him off. Now after you do that, like I said, eventually hitting him, getting him down to 0%, a little goblin will spawn. The goblin has like 100k health or something. He'll die pretty quick, and then that's it for this dungeon. So as you can see here, a lot of trash loaded here. This instance is probably my least favorite for that reason. It's just so trash heavy, not a whole lot of fun. But that is the MOTHERLODE instance, guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And if you have any suggestions or things you want to see on the beta, also leave them there as well. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.